listen, we're not even going to delay the hour. I already told them my sisters are on. So now, Yolanda, can you please introduce yourself to our friends and tell them a little bit about yourself?
Hello, I'm Yolanda. I'm the oldest of the three. I have three children, one son and two daughters, and nine grandkids.
Wow.
I've been I've been driving a school bus for 20 years now,
Mm.
and I just love life. Thank you.
She is the life giver, honey. You can't tell her nothing. What about yourself, Dion? Can you please introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about yourself?
I'm Dionne. I'm the middle child. I'm 45 years old. I've been driving for 17 years and I have two daughters.
Wow. So, guys, this is like your debut. Yolanda, actually, Dion, you was on the first season of All in the Family when we had our crazy cousin go on there and say she loved all the scriptures. I ain't even gonna say her name, y'all. Don't even go watch it. Now go watch the first season of All in the Family. But now we're on here and we actually on here to tell our story. So you guys watched last week and all of our friends watched last week. It's been over probably about 1,000 people that have watched that episode and the numbers are still rising. So it was a very popular episode and many people reached out to me concerning it. My question to you guys is, you heard the interview with mom. What emotions did you have by watching the show? Starting with you, Dion.
Ooh, I had a lot of emotions. A lot of stuff came back to my remembrance that I really forgot about.
Yeah, that's me too. What about you, Yolanda?
Right. And just looking at and listening, it's a blessing, and I thank God for it.
Mm-hmm.
But it brought back a lot of memories, things that I had prayed to God to not to remember. And it
Yeah.
brought back a lot of things that happened
Mm-hmm.
in my a lot of things.
Yeah, I think that's what happened to me as well. I had a lot of emotions. I was tossing and turning, and I'm like, okay, God, what is this? And He told me, you're going through the healing process. So, with that question, what was mom like growing up, before the drug abuse?
Well,
We
hi mom.
love you, mom.
We
We do,
do,
we do.
we do love you. It was it made me be try to be a better mom with the things that I missed out on, the chances that I didn't have as a kid, like I can't even remember what was able to watch cartoons. So I'm totally lost with my grandkids with different things of that nature because I was too busy trying to take care of you guys.
Yeah.
So I didn't have what you call a childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I can never get that back. But at the same time, I thank God for the experience that I've had.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Dion?
Well, I think as a child, because we were so used to just being together. So it was like, I think a lot of stuff was blocked out when we was little. Like, it didn't matter. Like, you didn't really observe a lot of stuff that was not normal.
Yeah, because it was normal when we was in it. What was mom like though? I mean, Yolanda, well, you had more time with her, but what was she like?
Well, mom we always lived in the house as growing up with her mother. And then with that being said, mom branched off. She met your dad and she moved into his family's two family flat with the three of us. And she was a working woman. She paid the bills. It was normal. Everything was normal at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, we were back to my grandmama's house. So then it was years after that, then I started realizing something wasn't right. Something wasn't going on because she was in and out, come and going, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
All, like learning how to be a parent. You're not given a mallet that say, here, this is what you do. So I think she was more like learning how to be a mom. You
She
know,
was 15 when she had you.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So
She
go
things were
ahead.
normal when we were little. We went to school from home. Dion and I, you were just a little. You probably was months when this. I remember going. Our uncle Slim, he lived with us, him and his wife, and he would do Dion's hair and walk her to school every day. Things were normal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, Yolanda, you the oldest, of course, and you may remember most of everything because you were the oldest. Do you remember the first time you knew for sure mom was on drugs? Do you remember that time? Tell us the story.
Well, uh, I had gotten pregnant with. I was having all kinds of different problems. I was fighting. I had so much anger. With mom. I think she could have been more of what I'm trying to say, more of a person. She wasn't, we wasn't taught like we didn't hug, we didn't, say love each other. We didn't have the affection that we needed. So I think as a kid, I was looking for all the affection in the outside world versus at home because we didn't grow up going to church. We didn't do those kind of things. So I knew nothing about it. So I think that if we could have done things over, I think I would have been able to, when God, as I know God now, my life is different. I see things for what they are. But back then, I was reaching out to a lot of things, but I thank God that I wasn't reaching for drugs. I
Mm-hmm.
had problems with guys, and I got pregnant at 16. And I remember, I was really the popular, yo-yo. Everybody know you, yo-yo.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty popular.
You was
So
popular.
you go from being popular to people talking about your mom, things that she was doing in the streets and, selling her body. And, these are all people that was my age that I was going to school with and different things of that nature that she had been, doing things with. And
So let
so,
me let me insert. How old were you when you knew that she was on drugs? And that was one of the questions that I did ask her about, selling her body. Of course, you guys, my mom had a fistula, a hole in her brain, and a lot of her memory was gone. And then there's some things that she just tucked deep down inside that that she never wanted to pull up again. So it's some things that you forget, or try to forget. And so you just made a statement about you were young, friends told you about her, and selling her body. Tell us about that experience and what happened to you that drove you to even want to commit suicide.
well, like I said, everybody knew that mom was who she was my mama. So it was a lot of talk, and it was it. I think I was 5 months pregnant with my son, and I felt like anybody's mama but my mama. So I took 100 pills and tried to kill myself because I was so embarrassed, because you got this, you look this way, somebody is saying this, you look that way. It was like everywhere I went the talk was, back then they called it dope fiending. So, your mama dope fiend and she doing
Yeah.
this and she doing that. That was very embarrassing for a person of my, stature because like I said, I was very popular. Everybody knew me. So I really didn't want to live. I
Mm-hmm.
really, like anybody's mom but my mom.
Right.
So you didn't know how to handle it at that
Mm-hmm.
point. So I begun to be depressed. I
Mm-hmm.
begun to be depressed.
So it was a song out, y'all. So I know y'all probably felt the same. Your mama's on crack rock. I'm a
Right.
dolphin. All those songs back then. Did y'all hate it like I did?
I hated
Oh
that song.
God, it
Yes.
was terrible. It
And
was
the movie
terrible.
Colors came out. So everything drug related, crack cocaine came out in the 80s that drove me insane. And kids would sing those songs. It was
And
humiliating.
and then NWA didn't make no better.
Yeah.
It was it was terrible.
So Dion, I was about 9 years old when grandmother gained custody of me, and Yolanda was around, you know, probably 18, 19. So she basically ran away around that time when it got so bad. But you were the one that hung in there with mom. Can you tell us, where did you guys go? Where did you live? And what was that experience?
It wasn't a good experience. As I think back to it, it definitely wasn't. I remember I have tried to forget a lot. I have forgot a lot about it till this episode. But mom, it's just brought back a lot of stuff that I never even disclosed to none of y'all, to all the stuff I went through.
Mm,
Dion was always a quiet. She was always the quiet one. If you didn't see it, she ain't gonna tell you about it.
mm,
Most definitely gonna tell you about it. So I always worried about her, like where was she at, what was she doing, how was she doing, if mom was taking care of her, you know, because if you knew me, you knew not to mess with my sisters. So, I couldn't protect her because I didn't know what.
The only place that I really always felt safe was when Granny took us in, cause she loved me like I was her own grandchild,
mm,
and she always made sure I had food and everything.
well, I remember in labor and all I wanted was my mom. I can remember like if it was yesterday, I just was like, all those pains that was hitting me, and I said, I just want my mama. I just want my mama. And I
mm,
remember somebody giving me a number where she was living, and I ended up calling her, and I ended up going to, and I have this picture, and I said, Mama, you got a grandson. And right after that, after seeing Chad, that was her first attempt to go to rehab to get herself some help. And then I would go and I would talk to the counselor, you know, with her transitioning, trying to get better.
mm,
And that's how I learned about the disease, what she was dealing with and why she was dealing with it.
mm,
So then I understood and could be more passionate about what was going on with her because I begun to understand that it was a disease,
mm,
and that some people just can't stop.
mm,
So with the attempt, I went 100% with her, like whatever you need, and then I started learning that arguing with her will only trigger her wanting to go and get high. So then I used a different approach. So it was never a time, I got out on my own. So then at that point, mom would come stay with me. But I can understand the disease. So I can deal with it a little bit more versus latching out because I remember her
Y'all
taking
used to
us
fight a lot.
yeah, I remember her taking us to shelter,
Mm-hmm.
and we went to the shelter because Darrell Nance he was incarcerated, and he needed money for um to get out or either a lawyer or something. So she didn't want to give Granny no money. So we went to a shelter. And that was like the worst thing could have ever happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the time when we had our first fence fight. Me and my mother had a fence fight because I did not want to go. We had grandparents that took care of us, but we had to go with her because she was the mom, and that's what the choices that she made. So we had to follow, and so we went right here in St. Louis, Missouri, off of Broadway,
Yeah.
and I spent one night there because I had to go. But the next morning, a white van took us to Granny house, and that's where me and Mama had the first fence fight. because she was like, you was gonna go to school with the van. I'm like, I'm not pulling up with no white van and these people. No, I'm not doing that. No,
That was so embarrassing.
that was so embarrassing. And so I said, so I ran away after that. I wasn't going back to the shelter. So after that, they transitioned mom and you and Dionne out to
St. Charles.
St. Charles, and that's where you begun to be sick. And I said, well, take me to see her. And when you seen me, the fever went away because you was longing me. I was all that you knew, Brandy. I was all that you knew. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I took care of you. I mean, I changed your pampers, I washed you up, I did everything that needed to be done, like if I was your mom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when she went to work, I got out of school, you was my responsibility. I remember one time sitting on the porch because I couldn't go outside because I had to take care of y'all. So I said, I'm a bring Brandy on the porch and her walker.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I stepped off the porch and you fell down them steps with
A
that
hot
walker. I was
mess.
so bad. Brandy, I'm so sorry.
I'm glad you
So sorry.
saying sorry now.
I was just going to pray.
Well, how about she burnt me up in the bathroom one day
I'm
with hot water?
sorry. I'm
She had
sorry.
took me a bath one day and she put
I'm
the
sorry.
hot water was too
I could be a kid. I'm
You
sorry.
did. You did what you can. So I asked this, Yolanda. I asked mom about the time you were sold for drugs to a drug dealer. And let me show you her response. Yolanda told us, I mean, she told us she wouldn't tell you. I mean, I don't think she mentioned nobody but her sisters that she was sold for drugs to.
But no, I don't
Is that
remember that. No, I don't have no
do you
reactions of
remember the
that.
guy that she said that she ended up at the hotel with him?
Well, she said it. I don't remember nothing like that because I wouldn't have did that.
Is it by any chance that you was really, really gone that you just don't know? Because I know people when they're really, really gone, they're not in a conscious state. So a lot of things that they do that they don't remember.
No, I don't remember that.
You don't remember? Did you talk to her about it?
Yeah, I mean, a few minutes ago, early today, that's the first time I talked to her about it. And she said, that happened, so I don't remember. I told her, I don't remember that.
You think she telling the story?
Now, I don't know because I wouldn't have did that. I wouldn't sell my kids with no drugs, no. Mm-mm.
So what
Yeah.
do you think about that?
Yeah, it actually happened. It most definitely happened. I can remember it just like it was yesterday. It most definitely happened. Well, my grandmother, we lived with my grandmother at the time, her mother, and we were living on a flat. And
On the
it was
south
this guy,
side.
yeah, Southside, yeah. It was this guy that had been trying to talk to me. Well, he wasn't a guy, he was a grown man. He was like 25, 26 at that time. I was probably, I had just gotten pregnant with Chad. I was 16. So back then, you 16, you don't date no 25, nothing, 20, 19. Back in the day, you just didn't do that. So he had been trying to talk to me, but I don't know how that man found out that mama was my mama. But he had been pursuing me, but I would not talk to him. He was too old for me, So she came one night, her and you talked about this man, Jonathan. He was the
Mm-hmm.
devil.
Yeah,
He
he
was really,
was. He was sent from the pit of hell.
yeah, he was the devil. And grandmama didn't, grandmama know that she wouldn't, my mama didn't used to just come pick me up and take me nowhere. But this particular night, I had came in, did my homework, and we had ate dinner, and I was sitting around with grandmama and granddaddy, everybody, the whole family, we there. And mama came in, she said, come ride with me to the store. And I'm like, ride with her to the store, all right, cause that never happened before. So I'm like, okay. So we leave and we go on the south side, a couple of blocks over where we used to stay on Russell. So I'm sitting in the car with her and Jonathan, and then she get out. She say, she come to the car. She say, you finna get ready to ride with the guy. His name was Julio. I'm like, how she know him? I'm puzzled. Like, how she know him? So I got out and I got in the car with him, and then we riding, and then we went to the hotel, and I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, your mama, I gave your mama some stuff. I got a couple of hours with you. What? What do you mean? But I was so sick. He didn't try nothing. I was sick. I was having throwing up. So he didn't try nothing. Thank God that he didn't, but he had already told me that he had gave mama some stuff to take me. So we ended up meeting him back. She can't go back to the house without me, because I'm supposed to be with her at the store. So he ended up meeting mama and Jonathan. It was a black car that Jonathan drove. It was a burger car that the guy was in. And so I get back in the car, but he meet us on Castleman down by Lawrence, far down, like going towards the city. And then mama take me back home. But being that he didn't rape me, but the thought of her being so strung out on drugs that you will allow something like that to happen, thank God that he did not rape me because he already paid her. So he could have done anything to me. What could I have done?
So, did you ever talk to her about that? She mentioned that y'all talked a few minutes before the interview.
Well, mom doesn't remember a lot of things that happen, because I could tell you like clockwork, like how, I just told you how we left the house, going to the suppose I could tell you, because it's there, but being that nothing happened to me, I just never was so angry about it. But I know that once she started going to the rehab, the disease, you'll do anything, to get high if you don't have it. And mom was on aid. What she got 200 and some, 290 some dollars a month. She had to get granny money, and then she messed up the other money. So about the first of the month, what are you doing after the money is gone? So we witnessed, Granny, mama's mother took care of us as far as a roof over our head. And then our father's mother took care of us financially. She gave grandmama money every month because Yvonne would mess up all her money. I've seen mama do things that y'all probably wouldn't even understand, like literally, like things that I wanted to hate her for, So with that being said, God had to fix my heart when it came to different things because and then I wonder sometimes why do I do some of the things that I do? Like.
And we're going to get to that because that's one of the questions that I want to ask y'all. Starting with you, D. Do you believe that what we experienced in our childhood that had an effect on how we raised our children?
Yeah.
Explain how that affects your motherhood.
I think I'll be too strict sometimes. And it's like because mama didn't instruct. We didn't get no structure from mama. We didn't get no type of structure from my mother. And I always tell people like it's nothing like your mother. It's different from your grandparents. They can do everything in the world for you, but it's nothing like your mother and your father, but especially your mother. To set examples for you, to show you unconditional love without a shadow of a doubt.
Do you believe Yolanda the same, that have an effect on how you raise your children?
Well, a lot of the things that I've done with my children is because of the things that I didn't have with my mom. And then I look, being there and trying to be a mother. I didn't know how to be a mother because my mother wasn't a mother to me. But I did the best that I could, with the way I felt that I wanted to be treated coming up. So, yeah.
What about the way we love? Do you feel like even the way we show our emotions to our children, that comes from us not having the same love and emotions with our mother?
I think I didn't do a lot of hugging and kissing and telling my kids I love them coming up because that's nothing that I experienced. But as adults and trying to do better, I talk to them and I tell them, I love you,
Mm-hmm.
and they probably don't understand it because I. Didn't do it as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the things that I missed out on.
Mm-hmm.
So when I text my girls, well, my son he loves to be told he loves but my girls, I think that I could have loved on them a whole lot, but I felt like I can't remember a pair of socks that my mom bought me or clothes that she took us to the store. We never experienced that with my mom. So I've done a lot of things as far as giving and letting them know that y'all will never want for anything as long as I have breath, but I wasn't given the affection
Mm-hmm.
that they deserve.
Dion,
So
you
when
think the same? So you was more of a provider
yeah,
than emotional and physical type of parent that's giving them, emotional love and relating as a mother and a child than just a provider.
hmm
Yes, and then I always push them educational wise. I push them
Mm-hmm.
like push, push, push. No, it's come on, we gonna do this. I think I gave them more structure than anything,
And
and I
that
didn't really
brings
have
it.
to as kids really. I didn't have to really chastise my kids that
well,
much.
speak for yourself because I had some, honey. It
Yeah.
was some.
Well, that brings it to another question. We all did not graduate. I graduated latter, but we all did not graduate from high school. And of course, our mom did neither. Do you feel like you want to pursue a diploma now, knowing what we know now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
When COVID is over, that's one of the goals that I have because my grandmother always wanted me to complete, get my diploma and complete high school. So that is a goal, and I had been looking into it before COVID, had started because that's something that I want to do. I
Yeah.
deserve a diploma.
Mm-hmm.
I messed up a lot. I was angry, I was mad, and I fought and I fought and to the point where I got put out of all public schools because I had
Yeah.
so much anger, inside of me. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't proper um affectionate that I needed,
Yeah.
and I look back. So when you bring up those things, it comes
It
all
triggers.
those emotions
Mm-hmm.
come back up. So yeah.
Yeah, out and me the same, fighting. I think I went to probably every high school and two middle schools, um, and got kicked out of them. So I just said forget school, because we was raging with anger. And Dion, I know what. How old were you when you dropped out of school? Dropped out of school.
I was in 10th grade. And I definitely, I don't even know why I didn't complete school. I just didn't, but that was on me because grandma, Granny knew on her dying bed. I always say this, honey, I thought you was going to be in college because you was the smartest thing I ever seen. You
She
always was
was.
on honor roll and everything else. And it
Mm-hmm.
was just all the stuff that I was dealing with as a kid. And
Yeah, yeah. So what about relationships in the past? Our mom was on drugs, so the generational curse wasn't we did not end up on crack cocaine, but we attracted drug dealers and abusers. And so do you believe this was a part of the generational curse or we was a product of our environment? Starting with you, Dion.
well, generational curses, yeah. Thank God by my mom being on drugs, I did not definitely want to do anything. I didn't even want to smoke weed. I never even did that. So I'm like, no, I don't even want to do no type of weed.
Yeah, I kind of got hooked on them early, on the
Yeah, I just
marijuana.
that's why I was just like, no. Generational curse, yes, because my daddy was, of course, he was in the streets. So of course, the generational curse was left on his daughters.
Hmm. So you ended up with men that was rather doing drugs and then they start doing, getting high off their own supply as well.
Yes.
Yolanda, what about you?
Sister, I've dealt with nothing but drug dealers all my life. Nothing but people that's been on drugs. And for me to not have ever wanted to do that, the generational curse. Like when I told my son was young when he started smoking marijuana, and I said to him, I cried because it hurt me because you when you young, not saying that everybody does that, but when you young and you using marijuana, and then now you 17, 18, you've been using since you was 15, not saying that everybody. Now you want to go up the ladder,
Use more
something
drugs.
that'll get you high. So everything that I said to my son, he said, Mama, everything that you always say to me, I say when the weed can't get you high, a person that woke up didn't wake up and say, let me smoke some crack pipe or let me put some heroin in my nose. They started on other stuff, and once that other stuff couldn't get them no longer high, they went to another
They want
level.
another level.
So I used to tell him, you cannot stand the fact of use marijuana because of your grandfather. He was a heroin. My father was a heroin user. He shot dope. My mother was a crackhead. So with that being said, those spirits transfer, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that made me never, ever, ever want to use drugs. With I wanted to be better than my parents. I wanted to show my kids that it was something better. So they never seen me use drugs. They
Mm-hmm.
never seen me drinking. I might have had a daiquiri every now and then, a social gathering at the house. But my kids can never say, Mom, you used to dog. No, no, because
Mm-hmm.
I dealt with it coming up, so I knew how it would destroy a family. So
Mm-hmm.
and then I had started selling drugs, and I said, well, I'm sitting here and I'm seeing this, these people being destroyed. Mom was destroyed. So then
Yeah.
I got up and said, no more of that. No more.
Yeah.
If I got to walking on catching the bus, I'm no longer gonna do this. And I got up and I got me a job, and God has blessed me, to be
Mm-hmm.
able to do the things that I needed to do to provide for myself. So, it's a lot that you go through and you don't understand it at the time, but when you look back at it, God's grace and mercy was with all of us, even mama, because she could have.
Mm-hmm.
I remember somebody knocking mama, the guy from the projects knocked mama cold out, black eye. I wanted to kill this man. I swear to God, I wanted to kill him. So I thank God for God's grace and mercy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Lord.
So, I remember a time when mom was being abused, and she suffered with abuse. And I don't know, that's when she started doing drugs. Her story is it was presented to her with the guy Johnny or Jonathan, whatever his name is. Um, Yolanda, you remember a time in Dionne, we was actually at a house when she was being abused, and he chased us butt naked. That's when the angel dust was out, and with a sawed-off shotgun. Do y'all remember that time? I was probably about 6, 7.
That was the that was
That was
the
so
time.
embarrassing.
That was the taunting when Mr. Nash thought that he was Jesus and walking down the street with no clothes on. Yeah, I remember that with a
That was
Bible.
that was so
Yeah,
bad. That was so
yeah,
embarrassing.
yeah.
That was
I remember.
embarrassing.
Everybody thought that was my daddy.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a crazy time. I think that stuck in my head a long time. Let me ask you this: how did it feel, you guys, to have a father in jail your entire life, and then a mom addicted to drugs?
had it not been, I don't. I think by having both our grannies, it it relieves a lot of the stress. You know, we didn't feel it because we had other people to step in. But our dad did 25 years one time. So we was a cuz I was a daddy's girl. I love my daddy. He couldn't do no wrong. I didn't care what he did. I didn't care what she did because they were my parents. But I think I didn't lack due to the fact of our grandparents. They stepped in. It was the people that they needed to be in our lives. So, we were really blessed. We felt it, but not as bad. Because there's some people out here that parents are on drugs and don't have that support. And they on the streets just like their mother from house to house. And those are one of the things that I always vowed as a kid when I started having kids, that I will always maintain my own place so that could no man put us out, because we may be here today and then somewhere else tomorrow. So those things all had effect on me.
Mm-hmm.
When I would leave Granny's house and we'll go stay with some, her guy, and then when they argue, we up in the middle of the night running from house to house. I didn't like that. So when I knew that that's something that I didn't want to put my kids through. So any person that I was ever dealing with, if it's going to be you going, it's going to be you going, because you can't uproot kids like that. So those were things that instilled in me that I went through as a kid.
Yeah. So, I remember a time that, of course, Yolanda, I don't know if you never shared, and I don't know if it ever happened to you, but Dionne and I both was rather molested, and I was also raped. Dionne, can you tell that story and that experience, and how did you heal from that, or are you still healing?
Well, I'm still healing because a lot of the stuff I really blacked out. I really have blacked out a lot of stuff that really happened to me. And with this show coming back up, it just brought out a whole lot of stuff that I really forgot about.
Yeah. Yolanda, you may not know this part. I was actually with some friends, and I was living with you in the projects when I actually was raped. And I think that was like a turning point with me drinking heavy at around 13, 14. I never told
No,
you that. Yeah.
you know, you never told me that, because baby, that would have been dealt with.
Yeah, but you don't talk about it. I don't think then you wasn't open to talk about it, and I think that was traumatizing. And if you out there and you had that experience, you've been molested or sexually raped or whatever the case may be, you definitely need to say something and tell your story. Um, with you, Dionne, do you forgive mom? Do you feel like you forgive mom?
Yeah,
Do you feel like you still need to go through the process of healing?
yeah. I mean, yeah, because it just opened up a whole lot of wounds that I just really got over and just blocked out.
What about you, Yolanda? Do you forgive mom?
You know, for a long time, a lot of things I didn't. I prayed to not to remember, not just with that, with prior relationships and abuse that I had dealt with on my own over the years. I prayed. So with that being said, I've been forgiving mom. That's my first lady. Our relationship, as adult, and even when she wasn't all the way clean before she hadn't gotten sick. I can call on it. She'll deny it, but I'll be like, yeah, okay. I
We
call
knew
on
when
it.
she was back out there though.
Yeah, she always have dipped and dabbed until she got sick. When she got sick, that's when she really said, "Hey, I'm gonna give my life to
Hmm.
God." And she didn't pity pack her back on it. With that
Yeah.
being said, yeah, I've been forgiving mom. I was probably in my early 20s, because you don't get nothing but one. Like
Hmm.
you can sit around and hold grudges and be mad about different things, but you only get one mama. And
Hmm.
even though she wasn't the mother that I needed her to be, she's very good when it comes to my great grandkids. So
Hmm.
this is a learning experience to her, because she never really, was emotional and affectionate, but she loves my grandkids. When I say she
Hmm.
loves them kids,
All her
and
grandkids.
yeah, she loved all her grandkids, but I'm talking
Yeah.
about these great ones that I can't. I got one that I can't deal with, but my mom. Ooh,
She's good with them.
he's
So
good
so
with
let
them.
me
Yeah.
ask let me ask this. Um of course this episode brought up a lot of old memories. Um Dionne, me and you had the conversation. Um One of the things with us, me and Dion showed our emotions in another way. I think we was more bitter. But Yolanda, we felt like you never showed any emotion towards it. Yeah, you was bad. You was a fighter. You know what I'm saying? Your emotions came out in different ways, like eating powder. I think that was one of those things that you pushed down and you ate powder. Who eats powder? Yeah, she was addicted to powder. But me and Dion, we kind of handle it in a different kind of way. All of us kind of was promiscuous in a way, and at an early, state or an early age. But we dealt with men and selling drugs and all that stuff. But we showed our emotions in anger. And Yolanda, as you kind of in your 20s, you wasn't really an angry person, even though you was a fighter. So we never could understand like what was going on in your head. So with that, Dion, how are you handling your emotions now, and how are you trying to get better?
I thank God for getting saved and giving my life to the Lord. So I handle stuff a little different. Even when people make me mad, I don't hold on to it. I let it go and just go on and just pray about it and just be like, okay, God.
And Yolanda, you dealt with it in other ways, but how are you now emotionally, especially since the show it brought out a lot of things. So how are you feeling?
Well, I like I said, I've been forgave mom. So I'm more like Glory, like shout glory, glory, glory that she is all the way where she needs to be. So I'm all right with anything that happened because everything that happened to me in my past made me be the person that I am now. And I know that God forgive us daily. So how can
Mm-hmm.
we not forgive
Mm-hmm.
people who don't understand why do she be so the way she is? It's
Mm-hmm.
because I know somebody that sit high and look low, and he's gonna. Sometimes vengeance is not yours. You can
Mm-hmm.
hold on to a whole lot of things. I deal with a lot of things with my children that I think that I know that I don't deserve, and then I look at a lot of things totally different in the last couple of months. I've been through 7 surgeries. My leg was amputated.
And
You know,
so
I,
we was gonna talk about that, you moving ahead. But yeah, let's hold on to that. Do you guys feel like you need to seek counseling?
well, I'm dealing with some depression, and it's just not because of that. You
Yeah.
know, So with that being said, I'm gonna seek help, and those are all the things that's gonna come up with me seeking help
Mm-hmm.
and trying to get better. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm already looking into seeking help. So God
Yeah.
has been good to us. God has really been good to us because we all could be sleeping in our grave right now
Yeah.
with the
Yes,
things.
Lord.
Because of the experience that we experienced, we definitely could. Dion, what about you? Do you need to seek counseling?
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah. What stuck out the most during the interview with Mom, Dion?
What stuck out the most?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the situation about Yolanda.
Yeah. Yeah. That was something. Yolanda, what stuck out the most to you?
That the thing that stuck out the most to me was when mom said, I've done a lot of things that I'm not proud of, and everybody has, but I'm with God now. And with
Yeah.
that being said, that was glory to my heart, to my
Yeah.
soul, to allow God to step in because back in the day, we couldn't talk to mom about things because that was something that she wouldn't talk
We
to us
just
about.
couldn't talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
so
couldn't. I am going to show you some pictures of my sister Yolanda. She have a story to tell. Just recently, last year in July, she all of a sudden had a sore on her foot and it cut her circulation. And so after over a month of that experience, she ended up having to get her leg amputated. Yolanda, can you talk about that and what happened?
Well, I have been having problems with my legs for months before I even fell and hurt myself, which caused me, well, prior to falling and hurt myself, I had already went to see assistance with a doctor, and they had told me it was tonsillitis. And like I said, I've been driving for 20 years, so I'm thinking, arthritis, because when I was 10, I got hit by a car and I was diagnosed with arthritis. So all this time, I had been thinking that I it was arthritis, and so they had gave me medication, and I fell, and it was hurting so bad to where I kept going to different hospitals, emergency rooms, and they finally took gave me a MIR. I think that, yeah,
MRI.
and MII, yeah, that's it. And they diagnosed me and told me that I had blood clots,
Mm.
and that they were going to have to put stilts in my legs, and I had to stop smoking or whatever because I had started smoking cigars.
After
Uh,
years, I don't know how that
Yeah,
happened.
3 years. It was 3 years that I had been smoking cigars, and so once they tried to go in and put the stills in, and they couldn't get the blood clots to stop, I had back-to-back surgeries of 6 surgeries trying, and then they sent me home and told me that I was going to be all right, and I wasn't getting the circulation to my toes, blood circulation to my toes. So they start dying off. So that what made them have to amputate my leg.
Mm.
So you from um, being able to always take care of yourself to not being able to do anything for yourself is
Mm-hmm.
was like life changing.
Right.
That was, but I knew that God was still in control, and I knew that it could be worse because I could have been dead. But I thank God for the experience that I experienced. My family, you guys were so, so great with helping, doing anything that I needed you guys to do. My daughters, my son, he's incarcerated, and I don't really know how he's feeling because um, this is you go from he's counting on me, so it 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 begun to be depressing because you go from making money, taking care of yourself, to not being able to take care of yourself, and then now I'm gonna have to move out of my home because I don't have any income. It's a lot, a whole, but even with that, I still have joy
Mm.
doing
What
this
would
stuff.
you guys say to your teenage self? What would you say to your teenage self, Dionne? Starting with you.
Um, um, I would say, hmm, um, that's a good question. That I wish I wouldn't have got pregnant as a teenager, but I love my baby. She's a good girl. She turned out to be good and successful. So that's about it. And finished school. I should have finished school and went to college.
Mm. What about you, Yolanda?
As teenage,
What would you say to your teenage self?
um, my teenage self,
He
Mm.
was a teen-
I was tore from the floor up, girl.
I think I would say to my teenage self, you can do it. You can make it. You can overcome. I was so suicidal at that age. And I would say to myself, like, you can live. And for us to make it to this point, and where one, we did not become the statistic, because we could have been dead or in jail or strung out on drugs. And I remember a lot of people saying those Evine kids, they would never amount to nothing. And some family members would say that out of their mouth and not knowing they was cursing us. And so you know, at that time, I felt like I'm never going to amount to nothing anyway. I'm not going to be nothing but God. And mom, although she had an addiction, it was a disease. And so, just like you said, Yolanda, we had to look at it as a disease. And at that time, I didn't look at it as a disease. I looked at it like, why I don't have a mom or dad? And why am I different from the kids in my school? Why do they have parents? Why do they parents go to parent teacher conference? Why come, you know, I'm not in a home with my mom. I never had my own room. And so those things that I was dealing with at that time, and like, why am I here? And so I felt like I did not even want to live. And when I got older, I started understanding like, this is just her story, you know. And I'm going to say something. I did not forgive mom till she moved here in 2017. I thought with my saved self that, yes, I forgive, I love my mom, but in all reality, I had some bitterness. And when she stayed here, that was my first time living with my mom for 2 years straight and happened to take care of at the same time. And God had to let me know, you still bitter and you still do not forgive. Because even when she would ask me stuff, you know, to me, I'm like, she ain't never been a mom to me. And I held that grudge. And God said, you're going to have to forgive because that's a part of her story. And I forgave you. How do you expect for me to forgive you if you don't forgive your mother? And so I had to go through the process of forgiving. And I believe through this, now I know that we have to go through the process of healing, because we will bring that into our relationships, and we also will bring that into our parenting, and we also will bring that into our whole life and our job and people, that relationships and friendships, you know, with people. And we will have that guard because we don't forgive. And I noticed that she would try harder to be a grandmother. Like she said on the show, she tried to be a grandmother because she never been a mother. And so I believe that this was good for us to talk about. And it also was good for her because she had to forgive herself. But she's definitely a better mother. But we still have a past that we have to heal from. Some people have a past that they don't have to heal from, but we have a past that we have to heal from. And I think this is the start of it. You know, I would say this, Yolanda, starting with you. What would you say that young girl out there experienced what we experienced growing up?
To that young girl, I would say, hold on. God is in control. And if you're going through something and you don't understand, pray. And if you feel, you know, sometimes though as we pray, we don't feel God is listening. But trust me, He is listening. Just keep praying. Pray yourself out the situation, because God is a wonderful God. He will never leave you nor forsake you. And those were the things that I said to myself as I was coming up. You know, my prayer was, God will never leave you nor forsake you. And when you think that you're down to nothing, trust me, God is up to
Mm,
something. The devil is busy. He will come in. He will play with your mind. He will talk to your head. You will hear voices, all kinds of stuff. But step on his head, step on his neck, and say, I'm God's child. If I'd have known about God at that age, some of the things that I went through, I wouldn't have went through. And I just
mm-hmm,
thank God for it.
mm,
I thank God for being the God Almighty, His grace and mercy. Trust me, if you're feeling like you is no other way,
mm,
pray. When you feel like you don't understand, pray. If it's a situation where your life is threatened, pray. I believe that if I'd have had that, sister,
mm.
I if we would have had that.
Yeah. What about you, Dionne?
I would say, and if you can't turn to your parents, turn to somebody that you can trust, somebody that will understand, somebody that can help you out the situation if you're especially if you're in a dangerous situation. So, you know, find somebody that can help you out the situation. Um, and just remain faithful to God, like God's unchanging hand. Like these days and times, you will definitely need God in everything that you do. Everything that you're going through, God will see you through it. And it's not a test. The test becomes your testimony. So wherever you're going through, don't think that you're the only one that ever went through it. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be ashamed, because you're not the only person that's ever went through anything.
Mm,
Okay, Brandy, tell us about tell us what you have done because some of the things that you went through, I didn't even know.
mm. Well, I would say to that young girl that you are enough. And I would say to that young girl that your life, that what you experience is just a chapter to that book. It's not the end of the book. So what you're going through and what you experience is not just for you, it's for somebody else to bring them out the gutter. Sometimes when we experience things at a young age, sometimes you feel like you're not good enough and you feel like giving up. And why do I have this story? Like I felt like, why am I even living? But what I should say to you is that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And before he even formed you in the womb, he knew you. So God is always there. So I would say hold on to God, not man, not drugs, not drinking, not sex, not people, not to be. Some people, they tend to turn to the worldly things, but extract away from God. And I'm going to say this, we wasn't raised in church. Our house, I mean, it was a house where you had the weed room, the card room, you had the kids room. And so we did not know God. Our house was not, a godly home. They played cards like 3 days in a row, the whole weekend, 72 hours. And so we just was, we wasn't kids. We grew up so fast. So I say this to say, I would say to you that's out there, you feel like giving up. Your life is more than enough. Look at us. We would not be here today. Look at what we're telling you. If we experience this and we made it out, you can make it out. We are a miracle and you are a miracle. Because if you still hear under the sound of my voice, you can make it. You have purpose and God built you for this. You supposed to live, and your story, just like our story, will reach somebody else and tell somebody, baby, you can make it. You can live. So that's what I would say to you. And if you just need somebody to talk to, like my sister said, hold on to someone. If it's somebody out there that's more mature and, everybody need their rabbit, somebody they can catch up to, get your rabbit. Somebody that's doing something that you want to do, or somebody that have a story that compels you, get somebody, hold on to somebody. Email me. I'll find you somebody that can mentor you, that can be that figure that you never had, whether it's a father or a daddy figure, not to replace them, but sometimes you need somebody older and more experienced to speak into your life. And most importantly, you have the word of God. And that's how I was able to cross over. That's how I'll be able to start my healing process through the word of God. So, Dionne and Yolanda, I am going to bring your camera forward, but I want you guys to just talk to mom, because this wasn't to expose mom, but it was to really talk about it to help somebody else. Already I received 5 messages from 5 different people saying how the story last week helped them. Those that was on drug addiction feel like their kids did not forgive. And that's not our story. And so I'm just going to pull you to the screen, and I want you guys to give mom encouraging words, because we totally do forgive. We just had to we was jailed and we couldn't tell our story. We was in bondage, because we could not tell our story, and now we can. I feel a weight, and now we can start the healing process. And she's saved now, so it's a whole nother level. And so go ahead and speak to her, and then guys, I'm going to come back to the screen, and I'm going to accept you guys that want to come on the visual platform and just talk about this or have any questions. Y'all can go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, Mama, I love you. No matter what we've been through, we still got each other. And with that being said, God has gave us the strength and everything to move on, move forward. You know I love you. I know you love me. I just adore you. I'm so proud of you. And I just want to tell you, Mom, you my first lady. Thank you.
Hey, Mom. This is your middle child. They say I'm your favorite.
Yeah, she is.
And
Yeah.
they say, I love you, and I love the relationship that we have now. Especially when you got sick, that brought us closer. That gave me some healing and some forgiveness and no bitterness and everything. To see you have to go through that and for you not to remember a lot. So, I mean, sometimes God does things that we don't understand, but He has to probably take your memories for you don't have to keep on going back to the same bondage in the same vomit that you was in doing drugs. So he probably just had to erase you and give you a clean slate. And as he gave you a clean slate, he had to also give us a clean slate with you, us, and us as us being your daughters. So I love you, and I love the relationship we have now. It's better than it's ever been without you going back and forth with drugs. So I just feel like God has moved like never before in our situation, in our in our relationships with your daughters and your grandkids, especially grandkids. Because like even though our kids are grown, Brandy have the youngest kids, so at least they didn't have to experience what our kids have to experience with you. Because as we experience it, our kids experience it. So thank God that your relationships has been healed with them also, and they have moved forward with you as that too, because they are very close with you as their grandmother. So they like to hang out with you. Stuff that you didn't do with us, they do with you. They go out to eat with you. They hang out with their granny. They love to be with their granny and hang out, especially the boys, Jeremiah and Joel, they love you to death. So that's a good thing that and you're happy, you're more happy, you are loving, even with your kids, your grandkids, your sisters, your brothers, everybody could call on you and depend on you, and you're right there. So that's a blessing within a blessing. So thank God that you are who you are today, and walking in your purpose and the plans that God has for your life. In Jesus' name, amen.
um, we ended on a note of my sisters asking me what would I say to my mom. Mom, if you out there, one, I told you how we definitely forgive you. This was not a broadcast to belittle you or expose anything. We just had to tell our story after you told yours. And I know many people out there, we have so many people still chatting in that needed this. They needed to know that God is God. In the Bible, guys, it was never a person in the Bible that was so perfect except Jesus. Then they would have tried to play God. Jesus came so that he died so that we can live. That's the grace and mercy. So we won't be bound to hell. Paul in the Bible, for instance, Paul was a persecutor of saints. He was actually on his way on the road to Damascus to persecute the saints before God had to smack him down, and he was blinded so that he can walk in freedom. And he would use the foolish things to confound the wise. Look at David. David was a man after God's own heart, but if you look at David's story, he was an adulterer with Bathsheba. He killed Uriah, which was Bathsheba's husband, because she was pregnant, and he wouldn't go back to sleep with his wife. So therefore he killed Uriah. He lied about it, and then a prophet Nathan had to come to him and say, you know what you did. But look, he was a man after God's own heart because he really did love God. So it don't matter what your story is and your story was. God, his grace and mercy, he loved you no matter what. Look, let's follow another story. Hosea, he had to marry Gomer, which she was a prostitute. But God illustrated his love through Hosea and Gomer, because Gomer was like the world, which was us. and she was a prostitute and she did the things that she did, and then God will still tell her, you go back and get her. Even though she cheated on him, she went back to the world because, see, she still had emotional attachment and soul ties to what she was doing. But God still told Hosea to go back and get her. Go back and get your wife. That's how God is with us. Even though we still sin and fall short of the glory of God, we still ain't got it all together, but he still say, I love you and I'm going to come back and get you. I'm going to draw near to you. So it don't matter who you are. Everybody have a past. Your mess become your message. And so all of us have a past. It was so many things that we wanted to talk about on this show, but we couldn't for the sake of other people, not us, because we'll tell our story. We don't care about that. But for the sake of other people and the integrity of other people, we couldn't tell it all. So you just got a little bit of our story. But however, we said enough to let people know that's what we was. But here we are now that we proclaiming the gospel of Jesus Christ. We no longer those people. We are a new creation. All old things have passed away. Behold, all things come new. Just like my mother, she gave her life to the Lord 3 years ago after 30 years being addicted to drugs. And she nearly lost her life if you looked at episode 1 of All in the Family. And she came to Christ and now she's set free. God is a redeemer. So if you out there, whatever you're doing, God is a redeemer. And he loves you so much that he kept you here because you could have been gone. But God said, I love you so much, I'm going to give you another chance. Come to me. He just waiting on you. What you waiting on, sis? What you waiting on, bro? He said, come. He just wants your heart. We're filthy. We was born into sin. But this is when we have grace and mercy through Jesus Christ down on the cross for you. Because no man could do it. Everybody else was ratchet and wretched. They couldn't do it. So he chose Jesus to do it, but God, he wrapped himself in flesh. He walked the earth perfectly, which was prophesied in the Old Testament. We can get into that, but it was prophesied that there would become a savior, that he would bore the entire world. The government would lay on his shoulder. He died for you and I so that we can live, so we can have life, so we don't go to hell. I don't know about you, but I don't want to go there. I did enough sin for everybody. I don't even want sin. You can have it. Not that I don't fall short. Not that I'm perfect. But I serve a God who is. Not Buddha. They can't do nothing for me. Not Allah. I'm just being real with you. Not Muhammad. I'm talking about Jesus. Because he died for all of them too. And so we just wanted to say that, Mom, if you out there, we love you. She said she wasn't going to watch, but I saw her watch. She popped on in. Mom, we love you so much. We have a greater relationship with our mom. These past 3 years for her just being free from that. But we have to tell our story so you that's watching, that you can just see the miracle of God just through my sisters and I and my mother and my family. Because we wasn't raised in church. We did not go to church. The house we lived in, there was marijuana in one room, playing cards in another room, playing dice in another room. I mean, little kids was drinking around our house. But God. But God. And so we did this to break the generational curses, to let the devil know we serving you notice. We will not serve you. We don't want you. You don't even have no power and authority over us, because the Bible says you're under our feet, because you was under Jesus' feet. And God already took the keys and snatched the keys from hell. So if we receive Jesus Christ as our personal Lord and Savior, we won't go where he is. I ain't living this life just to go to hell. No. So we want people to be free. And we had to tell our story, even though it hurt. And, we cried and, it was a lot. But we got to tell our story, because how should they overcome? It's by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony, which is Jesus Christ. He's a Savior. So we got to keep it real. No more playing church. No more acting like your stuff don't stink. It's time to tell the truth so the people can come to Christ and see Christ in us. Time out for playing church. Time out for playing with God. If you out there and you know that you have not truly gave your life over to Jesus Christ, the time is now.